Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into the internet's darkest confessions, and that title is not exaggerating. These are truly some of the most dark, disturbing, horrifying, unhinged, and just downright disgusting confession threads I have ever read. These are truly just, wild. So you guys are going to want to make sure to stick around and listen to some of these, but I appreciate you stopping by. It means the world. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel subscriber goal is 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, so please subscribe. And trigger warning, there is some heavy material inside of this video, so just a warning now. But sit back, relax, and grab a drink and grab a snack. Without further ado, let's get into the internet's darkest confessions. Unknown to her, I watched my 21-year-old stepdaughter in the shower a few days ago. My wife and I are middle-aged and live together with our 21-year-old daughter, my stepdaughter, from her previous relationship. For the last 3 years, our marriage has been more or less intimateless, and I have existed on internet adult videos pretty much exclusively. My wife and I still love each other, but we have become physically distant. And although we have spoken about it, she and I haven't really been physically intimate for a very long time. I don't know the underlying reasons. This is hard to confess to. For the last 2 months, I've become nearly obsessed with seeing my stepdaughter unclothed. 3 nights ago, my wife came home exhausted from work and fell asleep on the bed. My stepdaughter, being in her bedroom, within half an hour, she went to the bathroom where I heard the shower running. Prior to this, I had examined the bathroom door and found that it was slightly warped at the top and offered a view into the bathroom directly onto the shower area. I gave her about 2 minutes and stood on a chair outside the bathroom door, being as silent as I could. And there she was, in the shower, her body slim, her dark hair and eyes contrasting against her pale skin. Oh, I'm not even going to read this next part. Oh my God, these confessions are disgusting. He just describes his stepdaughter's body in great detail. Then he says, I was nervous as hell, but I could not look away. Eventually, nerves got the better of me and I stood down, but I was back within 2 minutes after I found my wife still fast asleep. I watched her again for 2 or 3 minutes until she finished showering. Her body entranced me as I tried to commit her to memory. My eyes always drawn back between her legs. Throughout, her face was entirely neutral and blank. She didn't suspect a single thing. When she turned the shower off, I moved away quickly and quietly and went to the other bathroom where I relieved myself quickly. Afterwards, the post-clarity sadness caught a hold of me like never before. I knew what I was doing. It was no accident. I felt such regret and such overwhelming guilt, but my lust was too much. Within an hour, I jerked it again, playing the scene of her over in my head again. When I went to bed, I could barely sleep from my excitement. I've betrayed them both in silence and without witnesses. I've broken the sanctity and safety of my home through a truly basic lust I feel towards a young woman who has entirely placed her trust in me for providing a safe place to live. She suspects nothing. My wife suspects nothing, but I have intruded upon her, and I will probably do so again. I'm a foul person. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, dude, you will get caught if you continue. You absolutely will get caught. Let that marinate in your mind for a little while. Again, you will get caught. Another user says, as a young woman with a stepfather myself, this disgusts me. Please seek professional help. You don't have to tell your wife or SD, but please get help before you get yourself into some serious shit. And another user says, I hope she catches you and calls the cops. And another user says, I caught a close friend of mine spying on me in the shower using a mirror. I stayed at his house all the time and showered there frequently, as he was one of my closest friends and had a large home. I felt so betrayed. I cannot begin to tell you how violated I felt, and how I still have trust issues to this day because of it. I trusted him, and he didn't care. I can't imagine how much worse it would be if he were my stepfather, but someone close to me can. As a minor, my stepfather did this to my sister, and my whole family found out, including my dad, who beat the shit out of him. She has never been the same. Men can't quite understand what this type of thing does to a woman, but it really ruins a part of you when you realize most people don't give a shit about anything besides getting into your pants or fantasizing about it. People ruin long-term friendships, careers, and marriages over it. You will ruin everything if you haven't already. You need to get help. I confess that I am a 32-year-old predator who is exclusively attracted to young boys. I had a very turbulent childhood. I have 2 older sisters, of whom is really my half-sister, and 1 younger brother. My father, the father of the 3 younger ones, was a major predator. He had violated my half-sister, and that led to my parents' divorce. My father came every Sunday. He had violated my sister and tried to violate me. I had to live with this predator coming in and out of our lives. My mother was very nonchalant about it. My mother was very emotionally and physically abusive too. I told my father that I no longer wanted to see him when I was 14, and he obliged. I never had any real friends out of fear that my father would violate them and I would be blamed for it. I was very isolated. When I was very young, I knew something was not right with me. For example, I would intentionally undress for PE, where the young other guys would undress because I wanted to see them. I look forward to that every day. It was the same thing in high school, always trying to see the younger people. I had no interest in females, but I did flirt out of social necessity. I actually had very good-looking girls throwing themselves at me too. In my 20s, I started to explore my intimate preference with a few older men. I did not like it. I then discovered these documentaries of people who lived in communes unclothed with minors, and that got me off for years. I did not have any contact with minors for those years. After college, I could not find work in my field. Non-minor related, by the way, and the only thing available was working at a school as a TA. I was very awkward because I had an intense attraction to many of the young minors, and I stayed away. It was during those years that I conceded that I was, in fact, a predator. I left that job to work on my master's, and again, the only decent paying job was working with minors. I noticed that I can look at a minor and find him attractive, but once I form a relationship with him, I'm almost disgusted at the thought of anything intimate with him. It's really weird. I've been in and out of counseling for years and never disclosed my predator-ness. I guess I was afraid of being reported or having my psychologist terminating me as a patient. Yes, they do that, out of fear that I may be a ticking time bomb. I also confess that I hate most predators. Most predators are just guys who can't get a woman, so they'll settle for a young minor, regardless of age. They should all be shot. Those are the ones who break the laws and are true predators. They're also dumb as fuck, i.e. to catch a predator. I just love young guys. I have zero attraction to men, women, and girls. It's funny because people would trust me around boys but not girls because I am a male. I understand that as I get older, the more pressure that I'll experience to stop hanging out with so many boys. I feel a bit of that already. Being a predator has devoid me of trusting people. I know my secrets are a liability. I think a part of my attraction to boys is their innocence. I want that innocence. It's so alluring and attracting. I don't think I ever had it. When I was a boy, my life was pretty fucked up because I am cognizant of that. I go out of my way to help boys. When I worked at a school, I would not hesitate to buy some Subway for a guy who didn't have lunch because he didn't have money. I didn't expect anything in return, and it was not manipulating. My life is pretty lonely, but I think it's best that way. Not ideal. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone quotes the OP here when the OP said, "I also confess that I hate most predators. Most predators are just guys who can't get a woman, so they'll settle for a boy, girl, or whatever. They should all be shot. Those are the ones who break the laws and are the true predators." And this is the commenter's reaction to that. The commenter says, "I just want to point out that your assumption here is false. Most predators are exactly like you. Their attraction is the same as yours. Their reasoning is the same as yours. The only difference between you and them is that they were unable to control their impulses and chose to act on them, which you have apparently not. What concerns me is that you continue to accept jobs that involve surrounding yourself with the object of your attraction. You apparently have a master's in one field, but say that there are no decent paying jobs in that field. That's a cop-out and an excuse which allows you to tell yourself that it's acceptable for you to accept jobs that involve minors. Jobs you absolutely, positively, without question, should not have. And you know it. You've simply chosen to convince yourself that such jobs are the only ones available. Unfortunately, what that says is that you will eventually offend. Right now, you're satisfied with teasing yourself with temptation every day. I do not believe that will last indefinitely. Eventually, the tease won't be enough, and you will find a way to justify acting on your desires. You'll tell yourself that you love him, and you'll find a way to convince yourself that your relationship is different, and therefore it's okay. At that point, you will be a predator, and the fact that you continue to work in jobs involving your target victims is nothing more than proof that that is where you are headed. It's just a matter of time. I have quite a bit of compassion for non-offending predators who are saddled with a desire they absolutely do not want and cannot morally satisfy. I think it would be hard as hell to live like that, and I can only imagine the struggle that comes with such an inappropriate desire. But you've already moved beyond the point where compassion comes into play, because you continue to work directly with minors you have an attraction to. You know damn well that you work that job not because it's the only one available that pays decently, but so that you can spend your days being surrounded by forbidden fruit. And I don't believe for one moment, and neither do you, if you're actually honest about it, that you will continue to be satisfied with just exposure to the objects of your desire. You know the day is coming when you will act on it. What are you going to do to stop that here and now? Until you quit your job? Your answer is nothing. I committed a hit and run, then let my brother go to prison for it. I was driving home from work and had been drinking. I don't think I was drunk, but I had been drinking. This will be important later. I just worked a double shift and was up the night before. I went in with my kid having strep. So I was pretty depressed and disoriented at this point in my life, and stopping off for a couple of beers was a relatively new thing. I stayed longer than I planned, and I was driving pretty fast, 15 to 20 over the limit, to try and get home on time to take over the kids before my boyfriend had to leave for work. It was still dark, so I took a sharp turn and didn't see this woman in the crosswalk. I hit her. I panicked. I saw she wasn't moving, and I looked around, but the only businesses weren't open yet, and I wasn't more than 3 miles from my house, so I just gunned it home. Pre-cell phone era. I didn't stop to think about the body lying in the street. I was not making the most rational decisions at this point. I swerved around it and drove home as fast as I could. Ran inside, threw up violently, and picked up my phone to call 911. Then my son woke up. He wanted cereal. I made him cereal. 30 minutes had elapsed at this point from when I hit the person, and there was something in me that kept saying I had to get other things done before I made the call. I also thought to myself, as soon as they get here, they're gonna breathalyze me. I should drink some water and make sure I'm completely sober when that happens before I call. I know it doesn't make sense now, but it sounded perfectly rational at the time. The rationale I kept telling myself also being somebody's probably already found her and called 911. No need to tie up their resources with multiple calls. The whole morning was kind of a blur. I was supposed to drop my mom off at a rec center. I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't get in my car. She was pestering me and pestering me. I was just so focused on how much time had elapsed since I hit the person. I couldn't really focus on anything anyone was saying to me. 45 minutes, she must have been in the ER by now. An hour 15 minutes, she's probably been admitted to the hospital, etc. Eventually, my brother got woke up and saw my mother was still home and asked her what was up. And she said I wouldn't take her and she didn't know why. So my brother said he'd take her. So we went outside to get the car and he saw I'd obviously hit something. So he came inside and he said basically, "Is there something we need to talk about?" And the whole story came pouring out, and as I described it to him, it was the first time since it happened that it started to feel real, and I'd realized I'd missed the window for it to be all okay when I left the scene and I didn't call the police. As I began to grasp the severity of the situation, I just started to think about my kids. It was like someone had tied cinder blocks to my feet and hands. It was a familiar feeling. I have a record already for a non-violent offense, and my boyfriend tries really hard to be a good father, but I would die before I let him have sole custody. The feeling of your actions removing your autonomy from you is a horrible one I had hoped was in my past. My parents are old and falling apart. I started having an anxiety attack thinking about who would take care of them and my kids if I went back to prison. My brother was saying, "We have to call the insurance company. We have to call a lawyer. We have to call 911. This is so serious. You shouldn't have tried and handled this on your own." I just kept saying, "What lawyer? With what money?" And crying, and the more he thought about it, the more he realized I was right about that one part. I told him my plan was to try and hope there wasn't enough evidence to catch me, and he said basically, bad plan. My head was still whirling. I was starting to realize the severity of what I'd done, the crushing guilt of the position I'd put my kids in, my parents in, losing my income. That's critical to the house. And most importantly, the woman I hit. At this point, I still didn't know if she was dead or alive. I started wondering if she had a family, if she was dead because I didn't call 911 and could have lived if I'd done something, if she had parents that were going to lose their house without her income, if her kids were waiting for her to come home. So my brother sat with me, and we waited, and he tried to get me to calm down so we could figure out a plan. Basically, he was just trying to keep me in the house and from doing anything else stupid. We kept periodically checking the local news. It took about 4 hours for the full report to be on the TV. They had no idea about the driver. They had one person who claimed to have saw the incident from far away, but described a car that looked nothing like mine. Police were looking for the driver. When I heard police and scene of the crime, I was so broken up. The reality was just getting heavier and heavier. That's when my brother suggested it. He said, "Hey, maybe I turn myself in place of you so you can stay with your kids." He was never the biggest fan of my boyfriend spending a lot of time with the kids, and he already had some prior charges. He didn't have kids or much of a meaningful job, but I still didn't want to hear anything like that. We talked about it for a couple more hours. He said keeping his nephews with their mother would give his life a meaning it wouldn't otherwise have. He wasn't going anywhere with his life outside that mattered, etc. I knew it was all bullshit to make me feel better about the impossible position I put us all in. I considered writing a detailed confession, then just committing S-word. But I didn't want to leave my kids and my family with that mental burden. We constructed a story that made perfect sense. The car I was driving was owned by my father and my brother, and I trade off driving it all the time. Because I'd been out drinking, the time I was driving is a time he could have also easily been driving. He took a few hours to sort out some personal business. He made a frantic phone call confession to a friend, but not to a close friend, so he was pretty sure would testify against him. He was right, to lend credibility to the story. I hit someone earlier today. I don't know what to do. I'm thinking of leaving town. Could you loan me some money, etc.? He called out sick from his other job. I almost changed my mind right before he went to turn himself in, because he didn't tell our mom what he was going to do. She's got dementia. She's still pretty lucid, but not entirely there, and she wouldn't understand what he was trying to tell her. So he just told her he had to go on a trip and wouldn't be back for a while. She was so sweet, she tried to pack him a bag and make him a sandwich and kept asking him to write down the address where he was staying and a number where she could reach him. He tried really hard to hold back tears. My father was irate at him for putting her through all of this after everything she put up with. My father bought the story. He didn't know my brother was home that morning. It was seeing how hurt my brother was, seeing my father's disappointment in him. My brother had worked so hard, so hard to turn his life around since his actual conviction. He'd made my parents really proud and rebuilt their trust over a long period of time. It broke him to have to confess this to my father. He stuck to our story with them because he knew they wouldn't let him cop to something he didn't do. He didn't want to risk it, especially with my mom not having a great understanding of secrets anymore. So that was the only time I almost broke. I wanted to do anything to take that pain from him. I'd been S-word in the past, but never so strongly as seeing just the beginning of the pain I had inflicted on one of the most important people in my life. The woman wasn't dead. Concussion, broken bones, but a motorcyclist found her, carried her to safety, and got help. This really helped my brother's case. The fact that she was going to make a full recovery. He had a terrible public defender, but the case luckily didn't get much media attention, and the victim was a poor immigrant, so there weren't protest rallies calling for my brother to get the death penalty or anything. The judicial process was quick, and all things considered, painless. Since he was pleading guilty and is the kind to be typecast as a criminal, nobody looked too closely at his guilty plea. I had so much in common with this woman. She also had kids, close in age to mine. I hate myself for what I did to her as much as for what I did to my brother. She must have been so scared and in so much pain, and I just left her there. My brother is a little more than halfway through his sentence. I just can't bear the thought that not only did I tear the family apart and ruin my brother's life, but that he's shouldering the blame for the entire thing. I visit him every time I have enough for the bus out there. They're keeping him out of state. I bring my mom sometimes too, though my dad doesn't want me to. He refuses to see him. That might be the worst part of all of this. I talk to him about it, as best I can, knowing someone is always listening. The last time I saw him about 3 months ago, I couldn't believe it was only halfway. My last son is all grown up. I told him, if you've changed your mind, just say so. And he cut me off and said, no, never. Then it would all be for nothing. And said he never wants to hear that kind of talk again. But it's my dream and my nightmare to come clean. I'll never do it because I'm a coward and because my kids still need a mother. My parents need someone bringing in money, and my son wants to go back to school, and my other son has moved away. But the cinder block feeling never goes away. I thought once I knew I wouldn't have gone to prison, it would go away. I thought once I knew the woman was alive and recovering, it would go away. I thought once my last son was able to support himself and didn't need me like he did when he was a child, it would go away. But it's never going away. I have to carry the woman's pain, my brother's pain, my father's pain, and the pain of everyone who doesn't have my brother in their life because of me. And I figure that's the least I deserve. So that's it. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, you let that happen to your own brother. Why? Another user says, that's fucked up. I hope that one day the guilt becomes too much and the truth spills so that you and your brother can swap places. Your brother does not deserve that. No matter the circumstances, you do the crime, you do the time. And another user says, even if it was his idea, I still can't believe you let this happen to your own sibling. I hope that one day the truth comes out so you can go to prison where you belong. I knew my brother was a serial R-wordist for years, and I never told anyone. I'm 2 years younger than my brother. He was always a popular guy at school, and I sort of always lived in his shadow. He was always sort of a bad boy in that sense. He ran with a crew of troublemakers constantly. He drank and did drugs and partied constantly. He had a sort of roughed up face from getting into fights constantly. He had scars. He had bleached short hair and a leather jacket that he wore everywhere. My parents were gone one weekend, and my brother threw a party. And later in the night, I remember he went upstairs with a girl who seemed really messed up and wasted. My bedroom is on the first floor. For reference, so when she came downstairs crying and saying, get away from me, I heard that very clearly. He came downstairs and was yelling at her to come back into the bed. They got into an argument. And I remember her saying that she woke up to him on the top of her, unclothed. That was the first incident. I was 15. He was 17. The second incident was during my first year of college. I lived in his apartment. We went to the same college. It was fun, finally living away from my parents, and I had a big, nice apartment with my older brother and his cool older friends. Then maybe 8 months into me living there, I overheard a discussion. One of the friends said that my brother had pushed a high school girl against a wall and R-worded her and left her with bruises. My brother kept on denying it over and over again, and the friend said he had just heard it as a rumor, and he wasn't sure if my brother did it. Of course, the college assholes that they were, his friend was giving him tips to avoid people hearing about the incident. Then another incident. Brother had a few friends over. Girl got really drunk and asked to sleep on the couch. I woke up to her yelling, "Get off of me," and then saying, "Ow, ow, ow, what's wrong with you? Stop," and crying in pain. And then I heard her run out of the apartment. I just remember my brother saying the F word over and over and over again after she ran out. I don't know if the other roommates heard. They lived further down the hall of our apartment. The worst, however, was the last incident. Once again, girls were over at the apartment, some of them high school girls. He had some weirdo guy over who I had never met. At this point, the roommate had left, so it was just me and my brother. Most of the girls had left, and 2 of them stayed. I remember one of them was stumbling over around the time I left. I left to get a beer, and when I got back, I walked in on the girl passed out on the couch, with the strange guy next to her feeling her up. I figured they had drugged her. I didn't know where my brother was, but I thought this was weird, so I told him to stop and said he should leave. I remember my voice was trembling. I was so scared. He got up and acted all sorry that I caught him, not that he did it. Except that my brother came out of the restroom, unclothed. He was going to have intimacy with her. They both were. He awkwardly asked what I was doing back. I said I was just getting a beer, and he said he thought I was going to Chris's house. After that, it was just an awkward silence, and I just walked to my bedroom, and presumably, they R-worded her. And I didn't do anything because I was too petrified of calling on my older brother for this. It's been over a decade since then, and I think about it all the time. My brother would go on to become a serious pill and alcohol addict soon after I moved out. Well, dropped out. I dropped out of college. He is now in and out of jail and rehab. He went to jail for R-word. I don't know if he has some sort of serial interest of R-wording girls, but he did it over and over again. The same kind of shit, almost always sleeping girls. I still feel this constant lingering guilt about what happened. The fact that I let that happen over and over again. That last incident is what truly makes my stomach churn. I could have stopped that. I really could have. but I just chose not to because I didn't want to shame my brother or anything. I didn't want to comfort him because I was always so shy around him and never felt like I had the balls to do it. He was my brother and I loved him, and I didn't want to get him in trouble, so I just never told anyone. When he finally got arrested for R word, I honestly let out a huge sigh of relief. Part of the guilt I had was relieved, but not all of it. It also oddly enough confirmed my feelings that these were not one-off incidents and that he was a serial R-wordist. Every time it happened before, I would trick myself into thinking, this is just the last time this is going to happen. He was just really into it. Nope. He was just a consistent perv. I understand that in some ways, I am responsible for the R words for not seeking help right away and saving the girls. I let them happen. Even though it's been so long, I still feel so horrible inside. And now let's get into some of the top comments. One user says, here's the deal. There is nothing any of us can say to make you feel better. You can't change what happened. What you can do is spend the rest of your life doing good for others. Take your guilt, anger, pain, and shame and channel it into something meaningful for others. Do it anonymously or publicly. It doesn't matter if nobody sees you or if everyone sees you do it. What matters is you put in good into the world, because that is the only way you will begin to feel decent and worthy again. Whatever you do, don't retreat within yourself. Don't let yourself be his victim. You have power and you have worth. Go make a good, real difference. What matters most in your story is how you respond to it. And for what it is worth, I forgive you and do not judge you. Another user says, fuck, this is peak r/confessions. I don't even know what to say. This is just so brutal and hard to read that I feel awful. There is no possible way I can say that you can forgive yourself for this. The consequences of you not telling anyone are unspeakably bad, but just fuck. Someone else says, verdict, you're a piece of shit like your brother. And another user says, you're the asshole. I don't know if you want to forgive yourself, but I don't think you should. I gave minors bottles of piss when I was in Iraq. I gotta get this off my chest. I was in Iraq in 2007 through 2008. I'm not gonna say where I was or what my MOS was, which stands for Military Occupational Specialty, which I assume that the OP is or was part of the military in Iraq. But I will say I was a gunner. I went out on patrol 5 to 6 days a week. Anyway, when I was over there, we got free Gatorade and water bottles so we could stay hydrated. We could just take whatever the fuck we wanted and put it in a cooler we had in our truck. Everyone had one. When you're in Iraq, you can't just stop anywhere to take a piss, so I got good at pissing in empty bottles I drank throughout the day while we were on patrol. I was a gunner, so I could just turn around on my gun away from my team and just use the bathroom. I smoked back then. And throughout the day, I would also put my cig butts in said piss bottles. Anywho, the road that directly leads to base is usually a straight gravel road. We called it an FOB road. People lived along this road, and it so happens there were always miners on the side of the road. All day, waiting for convoys to go by so they could ask/beg for shit. And they would take anything. I'm not trying to be a dick, but it could be a piece of toilet paper with shit on it you just wiped your ass with, and they'll go for it. Prob disregard it once they seen what it was, but nevertheless. Whenever I was the very last truck in my convoy, I would always throw out the trash of our truck. You weren't supposed to do that at the time. The kids would be there with their arms in the air screaming for anything. Money, a pen, a notepad, or whatever the fuck. So I tossed them my piss bottles I've been putting my cig butts in all day, just to see what would happen. As I was heading back to base, I could see the kids in the distance going for the bottle, fighting for it. They would kick up dust fighting. It looked like the fucking Tasmanian devil in the cartoons, you know? I would see a kid get it, slam it, and then spit it out in disgust. I'm sorry, but I'll laugh my ass off every time. And also when he says slam it, I assume drink or chug the whole thing. A lot of the time has gone by, and I feel like a sick fuck now, lol. I totally regret doing this. I would never now, but I was younger and dumb. I really didn't mean those minors harm. I really have no excuse. I'm new to Reddit, and it feels good for saying this. I haven't told many people that shit. To those kids, wherever the fuck they are, I do apologize for my actions. I'm sorry y'all drank my piss. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, you kinda did mean them harm. Not serial killer level harm, but drinking some dude's piss that you thought was being kind to you has gotta hurt the psyche a tad. And the OP responded saying, oh, it does. Don't get me started. I do regret it. And then someone replies to him again saying, you are a shit person. I'm sure you've seen your friends in the military die and be irreparably harmed. I'm sorry they experienced that, but I hope it gave you PTSD and you commit S-word like so many other POS jarheads. Another user says, this is disgusting. And the OP replies saying, yeah, it is. You're right. I am an SO who is abused and harassed every single day. The victim and I are still in a relationship. When I was 21, I was in love with a very young girl. I can't say the exact age in this context, but it's 1, 3. That's how young that person was. I feel that's disgusting. But I knew her since she was really little and our families were close. We did not expect to fall in love. It was weird and brotherly, but didn't want to turn into a relationship until toward the end when she was almost a year older. She wanted me to teach her and said she would do it with this effed up kid who did drugs instead of me if I didn't. It was actually very mild. Well, the law got involved. Long story short, I got in big trouble and am an SO for life. Our families, who were best friends, are now enemies. It is true we did stuff underage, but nobody cared about the nuances of it. That I was the only one who was there for her, the one who gave her guidance that she listened to, the only one who was a positive influence. While her father beat her and her mother was verbally abusive, no one cared that I told her over and over that we would have to wait to be in a relationship. Now for what I did, not one day passes where I'm not harassed, abused, and victimized. Even all these years later, word got out in my neighborhood last year when I moved into my house. I get graffiti at my house, signs around planted everywhere to stay away, moms shielding their kids and pulling them into the grass when I'm anywhere near, and accusations of being a predator. Last summer, a group of teenagers kidnapped me, threw me in a car, beat me up with bats and threw me out, and the police refused to come and get me. I get threats of violence and police told me maybe I shouldn't have been an R-wordist. I'm tired of not having the most basic human rights because of the SO hysteria. I am unable to have a relationship with anyone because they dump me as soon as they find out. I still talk to the girl every day. It is almost 10 years later and we are very close. Because I'm stuck in my house all day and hiding from society, she is the only one that makes me feel grounded. I know we belong together, I still love her, and I want to be with her. We talk every day and video cam every single night. She talks all the time about getting married with me, but it's complicated. You see, I can't marry her. The memories bring me so much pain. Even though I know our love is right, it brings me too much shame because I know that I did wrong. After being harassed so much, I'm reminded every day that I'm guilty and did the wrong thing by taking advantage of her. People judged me, hurt me, beat me, and threatened to kill me. When the teenagers kidnapped me, I was terrified. They were talking about lighting me on fire, and I thought that was the end. The girl wants to be with me and tells me every day, but she needs time to bring it up with her family and have them accept it. I could never face them. Right now, they would cut her off if they found out we even talked together, let alone we are in an online relationship. I wish I had the strength to leave this town, to get her and pick up where we started, and start over together, but it is too complicated. I could not be with her without feeling like I'm a perv. I could not face her family without feeling like scum. I could not bring our families together in marriage as they are now mortal enemies. And she could not tell her family either, as they would cut her off quickly. I know we belong together, and one day it'll all work out. I always did. But all I do every day is cry about the life together that I feel we are robbed of. I want to be with her so much, and she wants to be with me, but for some reason, we can't. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "You deserve it. You made the choice to have a relationship with a minor. You made that choice. You don't have my sympathy, and you certainly don't deserve anyone else's." Another commenter says, "What the fuck is this post in the comments? He's a predator. He was 21 and she was very young. They weren't in love. He manipulated her, whether he wants to admit it or not. You deserve to be treated like shit. I don't think you should be beaten up, but your parents should be worried. If I lived near you and I had a child, I would avoid you like the plague. You were/are attracted to minors. While being an adult, that isn't okay. Stop trying to defend him. Just because she's an adult now doesn't mean that this still isn't fucked up. I could understand if you're both underage, but that wasn't the case. You actively went after a minor. That doesn't make you innocent. Do yourself and everyone else a favor and leave her alone. It's sick and twisted." Someone says, "You deserve this." Another says, ew. And another user says, "You should be abused and harassed more. I don't think I can outright say what I want to, but this planet would be better off if you were 6 feet under. Please consider putting yourself there." I've killed minors before. In the early days of the Iraq War, many of the insurgents used minors to do their dirty work. I, unfortunately, have shot and killed some of these minors in accordance with the rules of engagement. These were not guys in their 20s or even teens. These were young minors. I used to justify by saying it was my life or their life to it was the life of my division or their life to wondering if I should have just let this minor shoot me. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, "Combat veteran here. You have to forgive yourself. There's just no getting around it. What has happened in the past, and we have no option but to process the shit we have done and seen, and then learn how to forgive ourselves. Working through this shit isn't easy, but it can be done. Get into counseling. It's gritty work, but well fucking worth it. Message me if you need to talk or vent or whatever." And someone replies to that and says, "Gonna offer a different perspective here, in case it helps. I'm one of those dirty Arabs, and like most of us, I've lived through armies invading us and killing us for no good reason. Thankfully, I never lost someone close. I've hated you. Deeply, viscerally hated you. Lived years of my youth wishing you and your people that I deemed monstrous, painful deaths. I fantasized about the ways you should be tortured. Eventually, though, as I grew up, I realized you guys were just as much victims as we were. This war is one of the governments and corporations playing a tug-of-war, and we, the people, who all want the same basic things, be treated with respect and live a quaint life, pay the price for them, and gain nothing. You weren't monsters. You were just being naive and buying into that others nation process that allows you to think other people are different enough that you can shoot them. And by believing you guys were monsters, I was using myself the exact same pipe dice. By hating you, I had entered the game and already lost. If I want to change things, then I should never indulge in violence, and most importantly, I should never allow myself the weakness of spirit of thinking you're other. And I'm not alone in this. A lot of people I know also think we're all pawns in this and refuse to hate individuals based on their history. I know it might sound ridiculous, but as a person who lives on the other side of that gun, I forgive you and all the young dudes and dudettes that got caught in this, fed lies and sent away from home to do fucked up things in the name of patriotism. Please forgive our fucked up young in return. But more importantly, forgive yourself. React to errors of the past by looking forward to the good you can do in the future, not by wallowing in regret about spilled milk. I know it's easier said than done, but realize that you have no other choice. You're going to go on living, whether you like it or not. Either you're going to use this pain as a drive to propel you forward and do good around you, or you're going to let it crush you and thus allow yourself to add one more tragedy to your account. Your life, adding insult to injury. As I see things, you owe the people you killed a happy life. The best thing you can do for their memory is to be strong. Accept what happened and do your best at being the most decent human you can be. Be happy, dudes and dudettes. Be happy and spread it around. Nothing good is ever going to come out of being sad. Regrets can be a positive emotion. I am a horrible mother. I wish my son would die. I have 3 sons. My oldest Alex and youngest Cam are wonderful boys. Sweet and smart and funny. They are such caring boys. I am proud to be their mother. They will do good things in the world. I love them. But then there is my son, Ben. He is 14 and he terrifies me. I was R-worded one night jogging, trying to lose baby weight for my oldest son. The man was eventually caught after he R-worded a dozen other women. I don't personally believe in operation to remove a baby. I used to be a proponent of nurture versus nature, and we couldn't be sure whether the baby was the R-wordist or my husband. So I had the baby, and I loved him. I did nothing different. But the older he got, the more I noticed that something wasn't right. He never learned to play well with others smaller than him. Those bigger, like his brother, he was fine with. But if you put him with a smaller kid, he'd be unbearably cruel. Punishment only made him be subtle. He still terrorizes his younger brother. He's in therapy and has been diagnosed with an alphabet of symptoms. He started going when he was 7 and kept stealing lighters. Despite being bright, he does poorly in school. In elementary school, his teacher cried and said that he tortured her. She was a new teacher, and he was a big 11-year-old who taunted her, and she thought but couldn't prove, ripped her posters, and ruined other things. That was just the beginning. I'm constantly at the school for some behavioral problem. It's always hearsay, and I've always told myself that kids can lie. But now I'm getting called in because he's become aggressive with girls, and I know what he will become. I met what he'll become on a running trail. He is broken, and I don't think anything can fix him. He's so big, I'm now terrified to be left alone with him, because when he has a rage, I can't stop him. He is going to do bad things. I created this monster, and he is going to hurt other people. I won't be able to stop him. I sometimes wish he'd die in a car wreck before he hurts anyone else, and while he's still young enough where people will remember him fondly. Edit. I didn't think r/confession would be so judgmental. I would never physically harm him. God help me. I love him. He's not always a monster. I held him as a small baby. I made him cakes every birthday. I was there for all of it. But if you ask the parent of any shooter or R-wordist or murderer, they would tell you they wish their child had died in a car crash before they committed an atrocity. I used to have hope. Even when we had to get rid of our puppy, I thought doctors could help him. I've always been his biggest defender, but I snapped after hearing about his latest transgressions. He pushed a girl up against a locker in a deserted hallway. He didn't know her in the slightest, and she didn't know him. It's the only hallway without cameras. How convenient. He expressed so much remorse when in the office to the authorities, but dropped it in the car, making callous remarks and blaming the girl. I met his father once. I had to confront the man who did this. He was so charming, and very much like my son to look at. He's a handsome man to a degree. I asked him if he regretted it. He looked extremely surprised and said, quote, "Of course I regret getting caught." That is my son. He regrets the consequences of his actions but never thinks they're wrong. He also thinks he's too smart to get caught. So pardon me if I see a dark future and wish that it would never happen. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, keep going with the therapy and don't give up on him. Changes don't happen overnight. And the OP responds and says, he's been in therapy half of his life. Another user says, just keep doing all you can do to help him. It's possible that he sees your fear. Does he know about the man who R-worded you? Has he been made aware of this? If so, it could be driving his behavior. It's even possible that he heard about it from someone else, and it's not as much of a secret as you think it is. It is entirely possible that you are dealing with a sociopath or psychopath, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, other than keep tabs on him and try to keep him from acting out. Hopefully, that is not the case. I hope that you can get the help you need to feel at peace and help your son. And if you can't, I hope you can protect your family. And then the OP makes an update a few months later, and let's get into it. In my original post, I don't think I managed to convey my love for Ben. Some of you probably snort, how can you love someone you fear and think horrible things of? He is still my son, my little boy. I carried him for 9 months and dreamed dreams of the man he could become. I have many bad memories of his childhood. Violent acts / aggressive or antisocial behavior. But I have good memories. He was always a bedwetter, so most mornings it would be the two of us up first and we would just watch cartoons together and drink cocoa and I would rub his hair. We have family trips and holidays and all of that. We have had good times. A part of me looks at him and sees his potential. He's tall, handsome boy. Girls stop and point at him, once even taking a picture with their phone. And is a smart kid. He is obsessed with bikes and talented at math and puzzles. Unfortunately, I see the danger. I know him better than anyone and I fear the potential. The potential for cruelty. His penchant to hurt. Shortly after I made the first post, this came out and he threw his brother, his little brother is half his size, through a window for using his bike. Luckily, Cam was only slightly hurt, but that was when I realized he couldn't be in this house, and so did my husband, who has always been the most adamant that sending him anywhere would be more harm than good. We found a military school, and he's been there 4 months. It is going well. His grades are good, and he even received some monthly awards. I almost found hope again, until we visited last month. He informed me that he would be good until he was 18 and could do as he wanted. Quote, I was stupid not to just waste my time and do things my way. I know that now, Mom. So we might as well save the money and bring him home. That he was only playing good around the right people, and that's all it takes to do well there. Overall, he doesn't mind being there. Just said it was a waste for us all, and mostly asked for money for snacks and for us to send his bikes when he gained the privilege. He still despises his younger brother. I will never understand his hatred of Cam, just that occurred from the moment he saw him, and has never desisted. I hope the best. Maybe 3 years of playing good will rub off, and he will learn to live in society. Maybe he'll be toxic, but not criminally. Or maybe he'll make a killing at Wall Street, or maybe he'll kill. Maybe not. This is all we have left. We don't know what else to do. We can only hope for the best, that the good will win out. I did a paternity test before we sent him to military school. I was so conflicted. His therapists have always said keeping him home, close to loved ones, and connection was the best thing we could do. And I feared that Ben's paternity was all in my head. Unfortunately, I was right. Ben is not my husband's son. I should have known to look at them. All behavior issues aside, Ben is so fair and lean and very tall, where my husband is dark and broad, and I'm a tiny redhead. I obviously have not and will not tell either one. It could only cause more hurt. I took about $2,000 on a drug dealer that OD'd. I was the first on scene as a first responder. So I'm a firefighter, and about 2 years ago, We got a call to a house for an ambulance assist, but we got there first. We walked in and there was 2 guys on the sofa passed out. We copped very fast and it was an HOD, so we needed Narcan to reverse the effects. My colleague went out to the truck to get some, and me and another guy stayed. I noticed a wallet on the table full of money. Soon as I had the chance, I put it in my trousers pocket before anyone seen it. There was $2,000 in it. I feel kind of bad, but we saved their life. I'm a gambling addict, and I stole money and will probably be caught soon. I've been a gambling addict for over 10 years. It started with slots in a bar, then it got worse once I found out you could gamble online. I have a very good, high-earning job. The more I started to earn, the more I gambled away. I've been unhappy for a long time, and I waited too long to seek help. Gambling was my escape, but my house of cards is about to collapse. I was clean sometimes for a year at a time. This year, during the pandemic, I realized and I started gambling again. Out of desperation after losing it all again and getting into debt, I stole money from my employer. There's no obvious trace back to me, but if someone really digs deep, it'll lead back to me. I've been thinking of confessing so many times, but I decided against it. I decided against it because this job still allows me to pay off my bank loans. I feel if I go to prison now, I'll come out with my debts tenfolded. I've been praying to not be caught for another year, so at least when I get caught, I no longer have any outstanding loans to the banks. I watched a lot of prison documentaries, and I've seen people with worse crimes do something good in prison. I want to get out of the financial trouble I'm in, and regardless if I'm caught or not, I want to do something good with my life. I want to make sure I can help at least one other person, preventing them from making the same mistakes I did. Any advice is welcome. Do I confess to my employer now? Wait until they launch an investigation? Contact a lawyer today? Or wait until I get caught? And now let's get into some of the top comments and advice people have. Someone said, get a lawyer. And if the lawyer doesn't advise against it, come clean. People are more likely to not press charges if you seem regretful before getting caught. If you only apologize after, they think you're only sorry you got caught. At the same time, save some money up if you can, so then you can pay the money back and perhaps make a deal of working off your debt. You need the lawyer in case they don't want to hear any of that, and it's best to be ahead of the issue. And for God's sake, get a sponsor or someone to help you stop gambling. As a child of a gambler, it ruins lives, not just your own. Another user says, I say contact a lawyer and see if some resolutions can be made. Honestly, if you stole a substantial amount of money, then just be prepared to possibly face jail time. Honesty is the best policy, especially if you know you're going to get caught, and it might help when shit hits the fan. And then the OP responds, and oh boy, he stole a lot of money. It is a substantial amount of money in the low 6 figures. From what I Googled, it's going to be 5 to 10 years jail time at least. I'm not in the US. It's freaking terrible. I have so much regret, but that's not enough. I can only use this time I have on this earth to make it up and do more good than bad. Another user says, 6 figures? If you want to avoid jail, leave the country honestly. And it has been 6 years since the OP has posted this post, and they haven't come back and made another update, so we don't know if the OP ended up going to jail or confessing or getting away with it. But man, low 6 figures of like stolen money, and like you said, 5 to 10 years of jail time. Yeah, he could easily still be in jail right now for what he did. So who knows what happened, but what do you guys think? I cheated on my sweetheart of a husband for 3 years with my violent, abusive ex. This is the one secret I am taking to my grave. So the plan was to post this in r/relationships and ask for advice, but I read through a few similar threads from the archives and people do not take well to cheaters there, so r/confession will have to do. Sorry for the throwaway account, but it had to be done. So sorry, but not sorry, I guess. My husband and I are both in our late 20s, and we've been married for 5 years and together for 6. We are really happy now, but it hasn't always been like that. My husband is a bit of an introvert, but he is now getting better. When we first got together, he was very quiet, nerdy guy, and he could be charming, but sometimes he got carried away with his hobbies. He was really different than the guys I normally date, much nicer and more stable, and he loved me for me, which is an awesome feeling. I don't realize how lucky I was to have him, and basically, from the moment we started dating and until 2 years into our marriage, I was hooking up with an ex. It wasn't an everyday type affair, but when he called me to hang out, I would drop everything and go. I was obsessed with him, and I wanted him to love me more than anything. My ex is the most hot, cold guy you will ever meet. He can be so exciting and fun, but he has a dark side like none other. He cheated on me a lot when we were together, and we had a few rough fights. So it wasn't a healthy relationship at all, but it was an addicting one. My ex didn't care that I was with my husband, and he knew he had me still. Even after the wedding, that for some stupid reason I invited him to, he still tried to flirt with me hard. He would always tell me shitty things about my husband, and he liked being the other guy, as fucked up as that is. It's only now I can realize what a scumbag he was. Basically, the affair happened every couple months when we would hang out or see each other, and it was a mess. I can't believe I was that person. It's so messed up. The affair is over now, but I'll always be haunted by what I did. I finally ended it when my husband and I decided we wanted to start a family, and my ex refused to listen to me and wear protection. I was still in the fog with him and wanted him to be happy, and I didn't want to risk anything with my husband. And when he refused, it hit me how little he cared about me, and I just woke up. I realized how messed up everything was, and I've basically not said a word to him in 3 years. My husband doesn't know anything, and I think it would crush him to hear about the affair. I know it's behind me, and I'm committed to being the best wife I can going forward. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, you're probably going to cheat on him again because you clearly have no respect for him as a man. It'd probably be best for him if he told him and left right now. That said, I'm sure you don't give a fuck about what's best for him, so you, if you are going to stay with him, then never tell him. Your relationship will never recover, and nor will his self-esteem. If the woman I loved and was married to for 3 years told me that, then I'd probably commit S-word. There's a good chance that he would too. Before we started dating, I stalked my girlfriend for years. Me and my girlfriend, let's call her O, have been dating for the past year. She is beyond wonderful. Beautiful, kind, extremely caring, and a bit scary, especially when I neglect my own health. The intimacy is good, and her family has taken a liking to me. But deep down, no matter how much I try to kill it, I can't seem to wipe out the feelings of guilt. My conscience keeps me up at night sometimes, telling me that I need to confess that I don't deserve her. I don't want to feel guilt, and I don't want to regret anything. I hate these feelings because it's all worth it. She doesn't know at all that I was the one who stalked her for years before we were together. It all started back in our second year of high school. She tutored me when I was having trouble in physics, and from that moment, I was infatuated. I didn't work up the guts to confess to her at the time, probably because she was quite popular, and I found her friends quite intimidating. They weren't bullies or anything. Her friends were actually quite nice. I didn't know that at the time. So I turned to stalking. Everywhere O went, I would follow her. I would track her social media as well as her friends so that I would know about all the locations she'd go to. Then I would just take pictures from a safe distance, making sure she didn't see me. I still have the box where I kept all of the pictures I took of her, as well as some maps and notes about her behavior, her likes, dislikes, and everything else I got from her. Eventually, the stalking escalated. I would then begin to steal her pens, write letters to her, and leave them at the side of her house. I'd steal her socks, shorts, handkerchiefs, and a shoe or two. I still wonder how the hell I got away with all of these. She eventually did suspect that somebody was stalking her, but thankfully, she didn't know it was me. I learned how to cook for this girl. I started working out. Hell, I even learned Bengali so that her mom would like me. It got to a point where I tried breaking into her house to take pictures of the interior, but they had a dog, so I just bailed. Then a while ago, she and her family went on a vacation to her mom's home country, India. And this may seem far-fetched, but I sort of tagged along. Wasn't that difficult to find where she was due to social media. I have absolutely no intention of harming her in any way. I swear to God himself that I cannot live without O in my life. Then a year ago, I finally worked up the guts to confess. O and I actually had a lot in common and eventually started dating shortly after. It was like a dream come true. But these feelings stirring inside me won't stop. I am planning on marrying O, and I don't want to ruin it anytime soon. Edit, so I read all of your comments. You are all right. I am sick. I am horrible. I'm a liar, and I'm a creep. I will get help. I promise you all, and I will confess. One day. No promises on that one. It's just that I don't even know what the fuck is wrong with me. Looking back on it now, it's revolting. I'm just scared of losing everything. I've already caused enough disappointment. I'm not sure if I can handle her hating me. I've already ruined my relationship with my brother and my sister. Now I'm about to ruin this one because I couldn't just be honest. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, wow, I'm sorry, but this was an extremely unhealthy obsession and you don't deserve her. She deserves to know and get as far away from you as possible. Then you should seek some therapy and try to grow from this. Never repeat this to another person, and if you find yourself doing so, you need to call that therapist because this is not okay. And someone replies to that and says, OP is a legitimate danger to this woman. I fear for her safety. Another user says, destroy your keepsakes. This is serial killer behavior. Do not tell her, but do go to therapy. You really need to get yourself into therapy. If this is real, you need to take these steps to work on and slowly change this side of you immediately. And another user says, this is fucking insane. You are mentally insane. Holy shit. And another user says, you are literally terrifying and someone's actual worst nightmare. Get help. You need to leave her if you really love her. This is horrifying. And all right, guys, that wraps up the internet's darkest confessions. And yeah, today's confessions were truly so dark and disturbing. Yeah, these were just beyond wild. And I came across a few that were honestly too dark that I didn't include. So these are like better than some of the other ones I found. That's hard to believe, but that's true. Like so graphic and gross, like I just didn't even want to read them. But these were just wild and gross, a lot disgusting. And yeah, comment down below your thoughts. I read every single comment, so please comment down below. And I appreciate you guys watching. It means the world. And make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. The channel subscriber goal is 1 million subscribers before the end of the year, so please subscribe. And also, if you watch to the end of the video, I'm sure you will enjoy some other videos on the channel, so go check out some other videos on the channel. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It truly does mean the world. Follow my Instagram and follow my Spotify. And this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.